Some of those will turn thundery with hail and temperatures as low as 1 degree overnight. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Limit European travel? Easy. Bergkamp did it for years. Gamble responsibly. CWE.net.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Well then, there is much to get through in the Football Show this evening. Dermot Corrigan is going to join us later on from Spain, where Ronald Koeman has pretty much said in the press he realises now that managing Lionel Messi may not be all that straightforward. Messi still not a happy camper, so Dermot will be along around 9:30 or so. Carabao Cup is continuing. Manchester United 1-0 up away to Brighton. It was McTominay with the goal. Everton have reclaimed the lead for the second time this evening against West Ham. Richarlison has just scored on 56 minutes. Calvert-Lewin had put them 1-up. Snodgrass had equalised, but Richarlison has just scored now. And Raheem Sterling scored twice for Manchester City this evening. They were 3-0 winners against Burnley. Very happy to say, as ever, David Meyler's with us. Good evening.
Joe, how are you?
I'm very well, I mean, I hope you're doing okay, my man. I was thinking of you.
Oh, yeah?
Well, you know, I can't think of two people you love more than Jurgen Klopp and Roy Keane. Cork's beloved, Liverpool's saviour, fighting on national television. I mean, it was like watching your parents breaking up. Who would David pick to go and live with, Roy or Jurgen? Tough time for you.
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to go with Roy, wouldn't I? Fellow Cork man. I'd have to pick Roy over Jurgen.
So, look, there's lots going on, and it feels like we've been talking about this Slovakia-Ireland game for a long time, and suddenly it's here. Stephen Kenny has named his squad. So 8th of October in Bratislava. Winners go on to face either Bosnia-Herzegovina or Northern Ireland, as we know. That will be on the 12th of November. How were you in the build-up to these big do-or-die games? Did you relish them? Were you nervous? Were you, thinking about it non-stop? What was your approach?
I think at the start, you're not really thinking about it. You're more focused on your own club and that you're like playing regularly. Because if you're not playing, you're kind of going into, an international camp thinking the manager's probably not going to pick me. So in the weeks leading up to it, you're probably more focused on your club. But it's kind of after this weekend is gone, and then the lads set their sights on travelling over to, Ireland to meet up with the team, meet up with the manager. Then it starts kind of sinking in. It's always in the back of your mind, but these are the moments you live for. These types of games where it's kind of like you said, do or die. I was fortunate enough to play in a few of them big games. Even the Wales one is the one I kind of draw on all the time. Like that was a surreal moment for me, and it's one I look back on with fond memories. And people still come up to me and talk about my performance that night, and to be a part of something it was special. And obviously for me, being captain was immense. For my family, myself. So I think the boys have to look forward to these games because they're the moments that you remember.
Well, it's still the last time we've beaten opposition of note away from home, really. October 2017.
I know. It is hard to believe. Like if you look at, we played Denmark and all that, they were tough games. We've had some hard games, but it's not a great record to have. But at the same time, I still feel we are capable of going away and getting results, like whoever we may face. Of course, look, if you play your Frances, your Germanys, your Hollands, Englands, they're very good teams. But I wouldn't fear Slovakia as I would those. And I think, we can get at them. We can create chances. We can score goals. We just need someone to, take on the mantle that, wants to score the important goals like Robbie Keane did for so many years.
For one thing, they won't have to deal with the atmosphere, which is, it's got to be a major advantage. I can still remember the atmosphere vividly through the television that night, and the Welsh anthem was sang a cappella, and it felt like the place was shaking. So they don't have to deal with any of that. What's your memory of that atmosphere? Did it help you, or was it actually something to really try and overcome?
Well, word had got round that they were going to do it. Now, when I signed with Reading, I remember asking Chris Gunther about it, and he said, no, it was done. It was a mistake. But we had heard 2-3 days previous, Martin had pulled me and said, he had heard that this was going to happen and all that. It actually spurred me on. I actually, when they sang the national anthem, it was amazing. There's no doubting that. It was incredible. Cardiff was a tiny little stadium. So, everybody proudly sang the Welsh national anthem, but I think it kind of made us focus and switch on more. And I remember when we were in the huddle and I gave a talk, like I was shaking and fellas were looking at me and they could see it, like it was, the emotion was coming out of me into them. Like I never for one moment in that game felt that we would lose, even when we scored. I trusted the lads, the back four, everyone so much that like I knew we would get the result.
My other memory that night is you and James McLean combining to take poor Joe Allen out of the game.
Well, do you know what? Joe actually came up to me after the game and he wasn't happy. Of course they had lost, but he'd gone off. I think it was with a concussion. But if you look back at it, I think James pushes him and I jump. And like I think his head hits my like hip bone or something, and then McLean clatters him as well. But that kind of, I think for us, it's like in big games like that, it's like the first moment, the first tackle, the first header, the first shot on target, the first corner, those kind of things. And it was a big tackle. I remember, I think Joe Allen had caught me a couple of minutes before in a tackle, and I was going to say, right, I'll get him back. Albeit I didn't like really mean to tackle him there. I was kind of like a clumsy kind of coming together, but it was kind of, we set our marker out that we weren't going to be pushed over, that like we were there to fight. And you often see any of these pundits talking, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to roll your sleeves up and you've got to fight. You like, there's a famous quote I heard of somebody years ago, was like, professional sport is the only job where somebody is physically trying to stop you doing your job. Like if you look at any other job, and we were there to stop them and they were there to stop us, and we let them know that we weren't going to be pushed over. And like I said, I always felt we were going to get a result.
And as much as Ireland are now trying to play football under Stephen Kenny, that attitude, that physicality, to be frank, is always, especially in those bigger games, especially against good opposition, it's going to be something that we're going to have in our armoury. Of
course. Like, it's not, the problem I have is I think people have this, perception that we're going to just all of a sudden just play like Barcelona, not like to the level they did, like, but just keep playing and playing. But there's going to be times when you're not going to be able to dominate the ball from start to finish for a complete and entire 90 minutes. We're going to have to, at times drop back, set up if Stephen plays the 4-3-3, then set up, a back four, a solid five in midfield, and get the striker to come back. We're going to have to, there's going to be times when teams are going to get on the ball and they're going to make it difficult for us. That's just part and parcel of it. There's going to be stages when I think the big thing that needs to be more encouraged, which I think, Stephen is doing, that, we probably, certainly in my era when we played, that we probably should have been better at, when we turned over possession, to then keep hold of it. We were always looking to straightaway counterattack constantly, that we never actually retained possession for, even if you talk about 10 to 15 passes that the opposition then drop back off you, we were turning over possession far too easily. And I think Stephen is now trying to change that, that he's trying to get them to, control the ball, on turnovers.
It seems like Slovakia can certainly hold on to the ball as well. If there is a worrying combination from the Bulgaria-Finland game, it is, certainly, as much as Ireland are now intent on trying to play football, it's not like it all suddenly worked, and how can it overnight? How can we suddenly become fluid and create loads of chances? So that didn't happen. And yet we certainly conceded a really poor quality of goal. So those two things together, that's not a good combination, obviously, for a match like this. Talk to us about both, what we did on the ball and then the weird, because we traditionally been pretty good defensively, the weird lapses in concentration for the goals we conceded.
Well, first thing you have to look at, the situation that the whole world is in with COVID, right? That, the leagues are cut short and whatever, and then there's, we restart and then there's a break. So lads hadn't been playing regular football, and that's it. It was a pre-season for them, in the sense that they weren't up to speed. Like, I even saw Stephen Kenny's press conference the other day. I couldn't believe it when he mentioned Shane Duffy had only played one league game, with Brighton, to think like how long, and then he comes in and he's captain in both games. So there's going to be a lot of rustiness. Now, we've just touched on what Stephen's trying to get to do with the lads playing football. Like, whenever the games are on, they'd have made up on the Sunday night. Stephen has Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, to work on everything with them, And I think it is very difficult to get so many messages across. Now, I've spoken to a few lads, like they've said different things or whatever, like they've all been really positive, but there's only so much he can get across to them in that time, that when they step out on the pitch that they can remember it all. Because a lot of it comes from, it's the players' confidence, you know. The players have got to go out and have confidence to get on the ball and, you know, play it. A lot, like, I spoke to, you know, Conor Hurlin quite a bit after the game because he asked me how he thought he did and whatever, and I said, like, at times we're just playing the ball. It's almost for the sake of playing the ball. There's no, like, purpose to, if we're going to go forward, then we go forward with purpose. Like, they're knocking balls around midfield, they're knocking around the back, but if you watch any of the top teams, I think, like, for me, the best team in England is Liverpool. But if you watch them, like Mikel Arteta spoke about, they're knocking the ball around the back, and then Van Dijk hits a 70-yard diag onto Mo Salah's, you know, toe. So it's very hard for, you know, Arsenal to press them, because if they go long, Liverpool go long, then they're in. Like, at the moment, we're in a like adapting phase that we're trying to find the balance of it. So I do think those Bulgaria-Finland games will have been huge for the sake of the players coming in, getting to know Stephen, working with Stephen for that, you know, week to 10 days, that I think by the time the Slovakia games, when he's had another full week of training, I think the lads will be really geared up and clued up to what he's after and what's required of them to play in the games. So I'm really optimistic and really positive about the Slovakia game, because I think, like I said, I believe we can get a result, but also the fact that Stephen has had that last camp to work with them now coming forward, that they know where, you know, they know what Stephen's after, because it's a lot different at club level when Stephen, like, could have worked with players, you know, for a full pre-season, which is usually 6-7 weeks. But now that he kind of gets into a camp and it's a quick turnaround before the games are there, you know.
That's really fascinating, because look, you can't be at your free-flowing best as a team if you're all trying to digest a lot of information on the pitch in real time. Yeah,
of course. It's normal, you know. Some of the best the best advice I received was, like, a manager, Steve Bruce, came to me one day on my debut, just pulled my jersey and said, just pass the ball to someone wearing that jersey. That's all you need to do. And at times we can overcomplicate it. Like that is the beauty of football. I'm not saying that Stephen is overcomplicated or he's giving them too much information, but we are changing a lot from what we were used to. Because we were solid, we were compact, we were hard to beat. You always felt that McLean would probably pop up with a goal. When Wes played, you could give the ball to Wes anywhere, he'd deal with it. Do you know what I mean? We probably found our niche in the way to play and to get results. Yeah. I'm not saying it was super negative. We were always encouraged to take the ball. You know, it's not as if, never once did I hear Martin say, like, shell it up the pitch, or, you know, he used to roar and scream daily, like, I was certainly one of them, like, get on the ball and make something happen, you know. Like, you have, like, look, opinions are one thing, right? But you have, like, Roy, who worked with him, best midfielder in the Premier League history. Like, he never once, like, said, like, you know, shell the ball. If you watched some of the games where he was involved on the sideline, he screamed at midfielders to get on the ball. You know, he's saying keep the ball, work it, and whatever. So it's going to take time, but it's good. Like, our conversation would be totally different if we'd beaten Bulgaria and Finland comfortably, playing fantastic football. But there were positive signs, and I do think having that camp, coming into the next camp, I think the lads would be proper geared up. And so Stephen Kenny's trying to give them, I presume, some kind of framework for how they're to move around the pitch and how they're to move the ball. Do you suspect it's dramatically different to the point where players are thinking, oh, should I be making a forward run here, or am I meant to stop, or what am I meant to be doing here? Like, can it get to that kind of an extent? I wouldn't say to the extent you said. I think the problem you have is that when you're working through phases of play and you're talking about, like, when the right back receives the ball, the midfielder, you know, peels out, or, you know, which position they go. But you've got to remember, some of this stuff at times in training will be unfazed. So there's nobody pressing you or closing you down. Or even if you are doing it with, you know, opponents trying to close you down, then, like, it's only lighthearted because it's training. When it's in a game, the opposition are really trying to stop you. And then it almost, like, players can almost, what's the best way to probably phrase it? They kind of have a brain freeze where they think, oh, well, the manager's encouraging me to make this run over here, but the opposition is stopping me. What am I going to do now? It can almost become static, that you're trying to do what you've been told so much that a lot of football has to come, like the best players in the world are creative. They think on their feet and they think on the spot. You know, you can't, like, even you see like Ronald Koeman talking about Lionel Messi, you don't coach him. You can't coach him, like, because he knows what to do. It's a feel in the moment. It's just like, we have to just find the balance.
And I don't know if you noticed in the Bulgaria game, I mentioned this to Dan last night, it was part of a similar-ish conversation, so I don't want to go overboard on this, but it was just a small example which maybe exemplifies what you're talking about. In the Bulgaria game, first minute, Shane Duffy brought the ball into midfield, lost it quite badly, and then he tried something later on similar, lost the ball again. But there were a couple of moments where Duffy was in possession and Bulgaria had fallen back a bit. And James McCarthy was physically, you know, hands out, letting everybody know, you know, you're meant to come into midfield with the ball, draw a man. And there were times where he was like throwing his arm, kind of waving him forward when he had the ball, and Duffy didn't do it, and then remonstrations between the two. And I thought, well, that is interesting. Certainly, McCarthy's of the opinion that Duffy should be taking that ball into midfield, and I couldn't work out, has Duffy lost his nerve a little bit, feeling a bit rusty, or he doesn't agree with McCarthy that is what I should be doing on the ball? And it was just, these are the little dynamics that suddenly spring up, and I suspect Stephen Kenny and the team will be talking about. I don't know, did you even notice that going on?
No, I didn't notice it. Of course, when you look, if a centre-half has the ball in the space in front of him, you're always told to drive into the space.
Yeah.
It's obviously, like, whether or not Stephen is told Shane to do that, it's something Shane should do regardless. Do you know? But as you said, the thing is, like, with Shane coming forward, losing the ball, then Shane coming forward, losing it again, you start to think, I don't really want to be going in there. I don't want to be losing the ball time after time, because he's, you know, centre back with Egan. If he loses the ball, you know, they're in on goal. So that might have been for him on that occasion. It's just probably a confidence thing. Yeah. Like I said, you know, Stephen had said he's not played much football. He's now gone to Celtic. God, I don't know, but I think he's top scorer with all the headers he's scoring. But those games will help him. And
someone made the point with Celtic, he has quite a lot of possession, and those demands will be on him to take the ball out at times, I'm sure. That was interesting, you know, so Conor Harron might give you a buzz or check in and ask for advice. Is that something he regularly does?
Well, no, it's more of a catch-up. I've known Conor a long time, and we get on really well. And obviously we both played in midfield. Well, I played, he plays. But it's someone, like, I'm close with him. I get on really well. I'm happy to see him playing, doing well, obviously, with Villa. I know now they've signed Ross Barkley, so it'll be a bit of competition for him. But at the same time, I want to see him doing well. And, you know, we catch up on the phone. So we're due to play golf now soon. So.
Did you call anyone in your playing career and ask them to give an outside view on how you were doing?
Well, first and foremost, as you well know, I have my father. He didn't miss many games, so he was quick to tell me what he thought.
He called you didn't call him.
No, look, there was times when, you know, Roy was obviously working with Martin. Obviously, I was playing with Hull. Roy was living in Manchester, so, you know, they used to go around to see games. Roy used to come to games. Obviously, when Roy was there, word would filter down to me, Roy is here and whatever. And I used to, you know, ring him or text him after the game, because I knew, like, if he'd been over, he'd be driving home to Manchester. So I'd be curious to know his thoughts. He was great. He'd sit you down, he'd talk you through from start to finish, what he thought you did well, what you think you can improve on, what you didn't do well. Gave me great feedback. Was very, very honest, as you can imagine.
And can I stop you there? Because he is criticised as a pundit for maybe lacking specifics or not breaking down the game the way a Gary Neville or a Jamie Carragher does, you know, with the screen and pointing out various tactical things. So when he's giving you advice, is it specific and insightful, or is, you know, because on TV he can have the reputation for being a bit too much focused on things like attitude and put in a tackle man and, you know, that kind of stuff. Was he giving you good tactical stuff?
Oh yeah, he'd run through everything with me. He'd be very specific to me.
Right.
You know, he would go through things with me as a midfielder.
Any examples you can think of things he used to pick you up on?
It might be something of, do you remember when you conceded that chance, blah blah blah, and then you'd be kind of going, you'd be trying to rack your brain because you've just played a game and going through, your emotions are high and whatever. And I'd be going, yeah. And he'd say, like, you should be 5 yards across,
right,
doing that, because you can cut that passing lane. At times, you're charging out to, block the man. Whereas, like, where's the danger? And I'm like, well, the danger is the goal or the ball in behind me. And he's like, well, hold your ground.
Okay.
Like, the ball in front of you with the man is better than the man with the ball behind you. He said, you don't want to be chasing back. Little things like that. Like, look.
But sorry, the little things is the real understanding and the genius of the game. I almost think the little things is more impressive than someone able to say the bigger things.
Yeah, of course. But look, there was many occasions with Ireland when I had, chats with them about games. It's just probably, like you said, I'll stop you there, because a lot of people don't speak out and say about this, that, and the other. They don't talk about these things, because it might be only small snippets of information, but you start to think about them, and it's his understanding of the game that he's trying to, pass on a message for you to play better or improve your performance. And like certain things, like that was the big one for me, was like, if the man is in front of me and he has the ball, I don't necessarily need to go and close him down because I'm the nearest man. Like, the ball in front of me is better. If I can make him play it sidewards, great. If I can make him play backwards, fantastic. But I don't need to steam out of, like, my position and get the ball pop around me, which in my early days of my career, I probably did a little bit too much. That as I got older, I started to understand the game, understand the position a lot better.
It's kind of a cool thing, isn't it, for the boy from Cork to be able to pick Roy Keane's brain after a match, I guess he would have, respected you doing that as well, and liked the fact that you were doing that as well. So I'd say they're enjoyable conversations to have. Well,
they were very enjoyable unless I had a bad performance. I can bring up one occasion. I can't remember what had happened. Well, I was coming to the end of my contract at Hull or something like that. And he actually drove over from Manchester for a game. So he was sitting in the car park, waiting, obviously, because obviously he doesn't want to go in and people will be bothering me, kind of want to slip in right on kickoff, I imagine. But I walked past his car and he beeped the horn. And I looked at him and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm not involved." And he went, "I'm fucking driven all this way over to see you, to see you playing. You're not even playing." And I was like, "Yeah, well,
sorry."
Yeah, I was like, yeah, probably the wrong fella. But at the same time, look, these things happen.
Sure. So with your right back hat on, and as somebody who kind of adjusted to playing right back, I just want to play a clip here. It's Matt Doherty, because obviously Spurs have, God, I don't know how many games coming up. So they're playing last night. They have Maccabi Haifa coming tomorrow. By the way, we should talk about burnout at some stage, because the schedule is just nuts for so many of these players. But Spurs play tomorrow. Matt Doherty was doing the press conference today. He was fantastic all the way through. Really, absolutely one of the better speakers and full of insights. But he talks later on about adjusting to right back in a back four, which I want to get your thoughts on. But first of all, asked about the battle with Seamus Coleman for the Irish number 2 jersey.
Look, I played the last few games. It's always going to be a constant battle between me and Seamus. And that's fine. Whoever plays, we have the full support of each other. We'd obviously both like to play. And we feel like we can play in some way together, but that's not really up to us. That's up to the manager. But I don't think being at a bigger club than Wolves will necessarily guarantee me to play. He's the captain at the end of the day, and we all know the credentials that he has, and we know how good he's been and consistent he's been in the Premier League and for Ireland over the last probably 8-9 years. So look, it's probably a 50-50 with who plays. I know he's in pretty good form at the moment, so I might have to up my game over the next couple of days.
I was just wondering, there's been a bit of switching between the different systems, 3 at the back, 4 at the back. You obviously played last season mainly as a wing back. How different are those two positions to play, right back or right wing back?
Oh yeah, very different. And people might not think they're that much different, but they are. Just positionally, I think I realised once I went into a back 4 consistently since the start of the season that you just don't actually have to do as much defending as a wing back. So look, it's for me going into a back 4 is definitely tougher. It's something I have to, which I am actually I'm getting used to and improving with each game. So the differences are there mostly defensively. I'm still able to get in back posts and stuff. I'm still able to go forward. But it's just harder work because you're coming from deeper, and you're not necessarily up the pitch all the time. Defensively though, it's just a lot about your position. I think when you play wing backs for so long, you kind of pick up a few bad habits, and you probably don't get in as tight to your centre back as much as you should, and your body positions, etc. So, look, I'm still learning. I'm still able to improve playing in the back four. So, it's something that I'm actually excited about doing in terms of. I know that I can play wing back, but just being able to kind of get myself back into this type of shape, and trying to like excel in that shape also. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to be playing back four.
Yeah, Matt Doherty there. It's Joe Molloy here with David Meyler. First off, how well does he come across? Not dissimilar to yourself, actually, in press conferences, just honest and interesting.
Yeah, I think at certain times there's a few lads are kind of probably a bit too media trained in the way they speak. It's better to nearly be natural and more honest, and I think more people will appeal to you if you do say it as you see it. It's like, look, you mightn't agree with everything I say, but if I'm honest, you have to respect that. And I think Matt is honest there. It is probably the toughest call that Stephen has, is the two of them. Like, both great lads, both great players. They get on really well. It's just, it's so tough. It's almost like we're desperate for Stephen to probably play wing back so that he could play Enda and, Matt, and then he can play, Seamus in the back three, because at the moment they're probably two. I know Callum had a great performance against Chelsea, but like, they're probably two of the most informed players in the Irish team,
I sometimes look at Matt Doherty, and the way he'll come inside, he's brilliant to come inside. Sometimes looking at him lately, given the Coleman situation, and I'm thinking, okay, if McCarthy's probably in there and Hendricks kind of in there, this guy really likes coming inside. Could he, with a few training sessions under his belt, do a job in there and grow into that role, or is it just too much of an ask, I wonder?
It's a big ask.
Is it? Because
the thing I'll say to you, Joe, if you look at it like this, when you play right back, for the games I played right back, you receive the ball, and in your peripheral vision, you can see the left winger closing you down, but you know that there's nobody behind you here. There's nobody, like, your fella here is your, centre-half partner who more than likely is pass you the ball. When you're in the middle, anyone can come from anywhere to receive the ball. It's not a case of you can just slot into, midfield. Yes, of course, look, somebody would be quick to say to me, oh, look at Philip Lamb, but you're talking about an exceptionally gifted footballer who's, like, by all accounts, if you listen to Pep Guardiola speak about him, he's the most intelligent footballer he's ever worked with. That he could understand it. But receiving the ball constantly in different angles, rather than the ball comes out to you and you've got the whole pitch in front of you and you can see the entire picture, it's a lot different.
Yeah, no, I accept that. Not least for a game of this importance, whatever about trying it down the line. Have you got a strong Coleman or Doherty leaning for the Slovakia game?
Well, before I was on the show in the morning and I said I fancied Seamus to start. I said I'd go with Seamus. I get on really well with the two of them. Like, I've known Seamus longer. I played 21s with Seamus all the way up. We're very close. We speak every couple of days, whatever.
Right.
Like, I get on really well with Matt. So it's like it's a tough one. Tough. But for me, I've said it, and I always said I'd be honest, even when I've said it to the lads, if I'm ever doing stuff, I think I would play Seamus. Seamus is a better defender than Matt. Matt is better going forward, even though Seamus at the moment it's almost as if he's found a second gear from not playing in either, the Bulgaria game or the Finland game. He's really kicked on a level. Obviously he's had massive doubts where people have raised, after, probably Everton's form, which is kind of a collective thing rather than an individual thing. Whereas from the outside, we're looking in, we're all focusing on Seamus because he's our captain. We want to see him do well, but, Everton was struggling. I think that was a collective thing. Now they're flying. He looks like the 25, 26-year-old Seamus Coleman that was in the PFA Team of the Year. He looks like that fella getting forward, getting to the byline. I think a big thing for him at Everton at the moment is it's probably the midfielders they've signed with Allen. He reads the game really well, and if you watch any top team where the fullback gets forward constantly, a lot of the time the midfielder is doing a lot of work to cover over and protect his position. That's how I think if you look at Liverpool, Henderson does a lot of work to cover over on him. So it's like Everton now have found that where the fullbacks can afford to get forward, you know. But as Matt said, he is learning the position. It is a lot different, you know. Starting in a wing back position, you're inevitably 20 yards higher, and you don't have to really work back as much. You're kind of like the amount of times last season we saw Matt appearing at the back post, trying to get on the end of crosses from the left wing back, was phenomenal, and that's why he scored so many goals for Wolves.
Did you do right wing back or right back in a flat four for Ireland at times? Can't quite remember.
I did know. I played. Martin never played wing backs. I played in the back four. Yeah.
Okay, and you found it out. From memory, you did very well.
I did all right.
Consider
first game was against Gibraltar.
And you kept them quiet.
1-7.
You kept them quiet.
1-7. Yeah. Yeah. It was a nice introduction, should I say? But at the time, we had Robbie Keane on the pitch. Robbie scored a hat trick, I think, after half an hour.
Yeah.
I remember. I think Martin took him off after an hour, and I think Robbie was fuming because I think he was going to, Robbie felt he was going to score 6 or 7 goals.
Yeah.
Then I went into the Germany game, which is a few days after, which then is a total different kettle of fish. I was lucky because I had John O'Shea playing right centre half and I had John Walters in front of me. Two men I greatly admire, have massive respect for, great experience internationally. They helped me a lot, and John did a lot of work for me. So that in that case it was probably a lot different because I just had to defend. I don't think I crossed the halfway line, maybe to take a throw in or something. But I was never bombing forward. It was more like I just remember. I think John spoke to me for 90 minutes, like up 5 yards, drop 5 yards, in 5 yards, out 5 yards. He coached me through the game, and then I had Walters in front of me who was, just doing his job. And I was lucky in that sense, but
yeah.
Going forward, I don't think Martin would have wanted me bombing forward as the threat.
Listen, brilliant. We could talk all night. You have a John Giles-esque ability to remember the specifics of all these games, which is great for a chat like this. Thanks so much. I'm sure we'll probably check in at some stage next week with the game. David Meyler, thanks a mil.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mick McCarthy, and I'm second generation Irish and very proud of it. We're ready for a bit of verbal sparring, eh? What you got for me this morning? What pile of have you got for me this morning? I answer questions on anything, religious, politics, health, sexual problems. And if I haven't experienced them, I know somebody who has. So, Some people might think that's 2 points dropped, and I say some people can f*** off. Yeah, but I don't give a flying about and slaughtering. I told you before. Did not. It's like. If anybody's not happy, write to me at goandgetyourselffettled.com. Have you come in the red suit and the white beard today, have I? Shall I come and sit on your lap and ask? Does your father know I'll bet?
I haven't told him yet.
I just wonder, do
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. New normal, same old football. Paddy Power. Gamble responsibly. CWE.net.
We all want to play our part in making Ireland a cleaner, greener place to live. So in association with Repack, Newstalk has gone green, and we want you to go green too. We're exploring all of the different ways we can help protect our environment, looking at the best ways of cutting down our waste, sharing tips on recycling, and learning how we can all become more conscious of our consumption. Go green with Newstalk in association with Repack. Follow the movement on air and at newstalk.com/green.
At Guaranteed Irish, we believe enterprise is at the heart of thriving communities.
Like Thea Healthcare, who've launched an EU-certified and approved reusable bamboo fibre mask that you and your family can trust to be worn at school, work or play. Eco-friendly, these masks are reusable for a minimum of 25 times and are softer than cashmere, naturally antibacterial, sustainable and environmentally friendly, so they're kinder to the planet as well as your skin. See theahealthcare.com to order your certified Thea bamboo masks you can trust today. Guaranteed Irish, altogether better.
The sky's the limit when you're with Three. We've decided to make the rest of the year a little easier by making our bill pay and broadband plans half price until 2021. And with truly all-you-can-eat data, you can FaceTime forever with the ones you love. Plus, get the amazing Samsung S20 for free when you switch or upgrade today. Three. Make it count. Selected plans only. Standard monthly charge applies from 2021. Up to 24-month contract applies. All-you-can-eat data. ROI only. See 3.ie.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Minimal contact in stadiums shouldn't stop the usual suspects from going down. Gamble responsibly. CWE.net.
Welcome back. So Everton and Manchester United are cruising now. Let me see if I can grab you goal scores. Everton 4-1 up against West Ham. In fact, it's gone full time, just gone full time, 7:45 kickoff. Dominic Calvert-Lewin scored a hat-trick. So that got that done with a goal from Richarlison as well. So Calvert-Lewin 1-0, Snodgrass equalised, then it was Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin and Calvert-Lewin. That's a 4-1 win for Everton this evening in the Carabao Cup. As for Manchester United, here we go. Scott McTominay scored the opener on 44 minutes, Juan Mata on 73 minutes and Paul Pogba on 80 minutes. So Brighton 0, Manchester United 3 in the Carabao Cup this evening. Some of the big guns out there scoring. And Man City 3-0 winners away to Burnley. Raheem Sterling scored twice for them this evening. Let's go to Spain. Dermot Corrigan of The Athletic is standing by. Good evening.
Hey Joe, how's it going?
Very well. I know there's football on this evening. I think Atletico were playing. Any news of note? Anything major going on?
Yeah, not nearly as many goals going on so far tonight. Atletico was 0-0 at Huesca earlier on. And Madrid are at home to Valladolid at the minute, just on the telly here, and it's 0-0 with 53 minutes gone, so it's not been the most exciting afternoon so far.
Did Suarez start for Atletico?
Yeah, he did. He's made his first start for Atletico. Doesn't look match fit really yet. Like he was great at the weekend when he came off the bench and scored the 2 goals, and it was real kind of party atmosphere. But they were already maybe 3-0 up before he came on, and they kind of finished off Granada. Whereas tonight he had a lot less space to move in and was taken off after about an hour. Costa came on. Suarez had one good chance. He was put through by João Felix, but he keeper denied him 1-on-1. So he doesn't look. And it's going to take him a couple of weeks, maybe at least, to get up to the standard of fitness that is required at Atletico. It looks like.
Yeah, I would think so. He has a habit in the last couple of years of not necessarily always pitching up with absolute match fitness after a bit of a break. Luis Suarez. Is it between him and Costa as to who starts? Is that his main rival for the starting position?
Yeah, Atletico played mostly with one kind of out centre forward, and then João Felix often kind of as a number 10 behind them. And yeah, Costa and Morata were kind of fighting for the place. Neither of them were impressing too much, and Suarez has come in to take Morata's place. So there's still talk that Atletico might try and move Costa out and sign another striker, another kind of centre forward before the end of the window. But at the minute, they're hoping to get Suarez back kind of, fitter and firing and ready, and that he'll be their first choice will be the plan.
Before we get into some specifics, Dermot, just a broad strokes point, and I was reading your piece in The Athletic and you were quoting the veteran columnist over in Spain, Santiago Segurola, and he was talking about the return of La Liga. And I know Real Madrid, Barcelona and Atletico were amongst 6 clubs who didn't play in the week 1 schedule, so of course it's going to lack some of the usual glamour. But he said the return of La Liga had, quote, the menacing air of a dystopian nightmare. So he's clearly not prone to an overstatement, Santiago. Wasn't the most electric of restarts, given the fans and given everything. And something else, I guess, struck me, given the Champions League performances last year, It must be odd for Spanish football fans to, I mean, really, when you think about it, I've watched Spanish football domestically and internationally set standards, you know, arguably that we've never seen before. Like some of the greatest teams we've ever seen. And now to be like pitched back into, not quite mediocrity, but I mean, really back into the pack, there must be kind of a real sense of flatness about Spanish football right now. If you're in the country and you love your football there, it's kind of like the era is well and truly over.
It was a fantastic, like, I've been very lucky. I've been in Spain just over 10 years. So when I arrived, it was like, you know, they just won Euro 2008. They're going to win the World Cup as well. And then you had the Mourinho against Guardiola and Messi against Ronaldo. And that, you know, it's like a golden age for football in any country. And I guess expecting that to continue all the time is pretty unlikely. But it is true, like the national team have bombed out of the World Cup and the Euros over the last couple of, twice out of the World Cup in pretty embarrassing ways, and then out of the Euros as well in their last 3 tournaments. And at that stage, you know, at the start of the season, it looked like Messi was going to go. Ronaldo's already gone. Atletico aren't at the level that they have been at in recent years, and there's not much money around in Spanish football, or at least compared to maybe before and compared to England. So some of the better young players were moving as well. Things have picked up a little bit. You know, that piece by, you know, I picked up a bit on it by Segurola, which is a good story that he had written, and it did. He was kind of pointing out what would happen in Spain if there was a European Super League, because, you know, there's often threats maybe or stories that Real Madrid, especially in Barcelona, are kind of attracted by a European Super League, and Atletico might also end up in it. And then what would Spain be left with, or what would the standard be like if those guys were to leave? And that's what he was a little bit worried about, because the first games were quite flat. Had some good performances since then. Ansu Fati was brilliant for Barcelona at the weekend. He's just 17, and João Felix has been very good for Atletico so far. So there are some kind of bright spots to look at, but it's not what it was. An ideal time for Spanish football, for sure.
Yeah. So Messi's headspace, I'm curious for your thoughts on this. Let me try and get the timeline right. There was his frankly hilarious goodbye to Luis Suarez, and geez, it's like poetry. I think, like, this is the kind of thing. Did he write this at 2 a.m? It just had the feel of not something you would write in the morning. So, you know, he talks about how difficult it's going to be not to share day to day with you on and off the field. We're going to miss you so much. All the dinners and lunches, they won't be forgotten. It will be strange to see you with another shirt. I mean, it's strange to see you with another man, he's so close to saying it. So you deserved to be sent off for what you are, one of the most important players in the club's history, achieving important things as a group individually, and not to be kicked out how they did it. But the truth is, at this point, nothing surprises me. And that was fairly explosive. So I see since then, he's done an online interview, I think, last night. After so many disagreements, I would like to put an end to it. We must unite all Barcelona's people and assume that the best is yet to come. And he says, I take responsibility for my mistakes, that if they existed, if I made mistakes, were only to make a better and stronger Barcelona, and is talking about, you know, trying to make everything rosy again. I mean, I think Koeman has a job on his hands here. What's the feeling around Messi and his mindset just now?
Yeah, for sure. Like, Messi's still super angry with the club president, even in his kind of non-apology apology that he did with Catalan paper Sport last night. He was claiming that, you know, what he did was for the good of the club and that he still loves Barcelona, but he still really, really wanted to leave and was super angry that they wouldn't let him leave on the terms that he wanted. So he's kind of has stayed under sufferance. It's not that he, you know, had a big change of heart and suddenly wanted to come back and play for Barca. It's just that he couldn't find a way to leave. Like, Koeman is in a difficult position, and Koeman himself was being quite nimble politically, maybe in his comments about Suarez, where he was saying that, you know, don't paint me as the bad guy for pushing out Suarez. It was a club decision, and by club decision he means the president's decision. There was Bartomeu's call to get rid of Suarez and Arturo Vidal and Ivan Rakitic, who are also, you know, maybe the other 2 players within the dressing room who are closest to Messi. They're both also South Americans, socialised a good bit together, similar ages. You know, that their families were close. So Messi does feel that a little bit that all his friends have gone. You know, it's he's been there a long time, and he has other friends. You know, PK is there from the youth system and everything. But the guys who he palled around with off the pitch have all been taken away, and that's not a coincidence. Like, that was part of a plan by the club maybe at one stage there was a hope that Messi would go, and then that turned out not to happen. So Messi's come back, but he's slightly isolated, which is kind of weird because he's the guy who everybody says has, the most power at the club, that if he snaps his fingers, then, he can change the coach or he can change the president or whatever, but it's not quite that easy, or it's turning out to be not quite that easy. And maybe even a feeling that others are, things are stacking up against him, and that he's, Ansu Fati came through and was, talk about him a lot, but he's an amazing talent. He's still only 17, and he's going to, if he keeps going as he is, he's going to be the best attacker at Barca since Messi came through. I think we can predict that. So Messi's in a weird situation in that he's still the club captain and he's still the best player in the team, and maybe the best player in La Liga, and who knows, maybe the best player in the world. But there's a feeling that he's on his decline now, and it's about kind of managing that and how he deals with it, which is going to be super interesting to watch.
Ronald Koeman, for his part, responded to the Messi non-apology on Tuesday. He said, "I don't know if Messi's words, if after them I'll have a quiet life as a coach. I don't think so. There's always something. But of course, it's very positive that the captain has come out like that, asking us to be united." That was what he said in response in a press conference. I must say, he made little or no impression on me, Koeman, when he was in the Premier League. And I'm routinely seeing him interviewed, I guess, on Match of the Day and on Sky after live games that I'm watching. I couldn't even tell you much about his personality. What are your early impressions of what he's doing at Barca?
Yeah, well, he's such a huge figure in the history of the club because he scored the goal that won them their first ever European Cup in 1992. Yeah. And he's part of the dream team with Johan Cruyff when Guardiola was a player as well. That is, all Barca fans would respect him, or he comes in with that type of a cachet or a status about him. He's quite a straight talker. He's maybe out of the typical Dutch school of football managers where they maybe don't suffer fools or they have their own way about it, and he's the boss, and what he says has to go. He's had to, as I said, he's kind of maybe softened his touch. Like when he was in Spain before with Valencia, it's a long time ago now, but he had an awful time there as Valencia coach. He tried to move aside some of the senior players in the team, and they lost like 7 of the first 8 games. I think they lost, and it just didn't work out at all. They almost got relegated, Valencia, that season, and he was sacked before the end of it. The senior players all came back, so he lost that political battle, and maybe this time he's trying to be a bit softer about it, or a bit more experienced or just quieter about how he tries to do it. But he does seem to have quite set ideas. Like he's changed the tactics of the team. He's brought Coutinho back in to make him a number 10, an extra playmaker in the team as well, and he's made some big decisions on players of who he wants and what he wants to do. He's also taken on the president as well a couple of times, talking about how maybe some of the players he expected to sign haven't been signed. So he's going to do it his way. I think is pretty clear. Okay, so maybe more than just kind of a company man. And well, I guess if you can't take on the Barcelona president now, given his weakness, when can you? And would Koeman define himself or talk about himself as a disciple of Cruyff, given obviously dream team and nationality? He pays respect to Cruyff in a way, but he's much more pragmatic. I was writing about him for The Athletic and talking to some people who followed his career a lot through his different clubs and with the Dutch national team. And he's more a guy who pays a lot more attention to the defence, to making his team sturdier than Cruyff. He wouldn't have that kind of idealistic air to him at all. So looks like they're going to play 2 holding midfielders, which is a big change for Barcelona, and have a more solid platform so they don't get caught on the break as they have been, in big games so often in recent years. Okay, interesting. Well, hey, look, even Guardiola's doing that at the moment, so maybe it's where the game is. And then a final point, never again will I have to turn to you and say, what of poor old Gareth Bale in Madrid? So, I mean, he signed off and Zidane signed off and they gave each other about the finger, I suspect, and that was that. We're done, it's over, never want to talk to you again. Off he goes. Yeah, I think everybody hopes that that's going to happen because, ideally he'll do so well at Spurs that Spurs will either take him up again next year or that he can stay there. But he's still 2 years left on his contract, and the loan is for 1 year. So at some point, another deal will have to be done, or there'll have to be some other arrangement. So a lot depends on how well he does, I think, this year at Tottenham. If he stays fit and scores some goals, then for sure. But if things don't go so well, then he's due back here in Spain next summer, and we can have another go at discussing what's going to happen. Zizou, it's me. I'm back. Marty McFly turning up. It's not what he wants to see. So listen, Dermot Corrigan of The Athletic. We'll see you the next couple of weeks to go. Thanks very much. Cheers, Joe. Cheers. Bye-bye.
This time Messi is onside, and it's an identical chip from the young substitute. Brilliant! And Barcelona wrap it up in style in the Camp Nou.
Messi. Oh, brilliant skill from Lionel Messi. Surging forward with real menace here. Brilliant from Messi. Oh, what a goal that is!
It's 2-0. It's Messi. He scored against an English club now. It's Manchester United. At a crucial time with 20 minutes to go.
Brilliant ball from Banniger. Is this the opener? Yes, it is! That's what they came to see. And he's provided the touch. His arms are reached up to the gods. Stylish finish, which Maradona himself would have been proud of.
Alba inside. It's Messi!
Again! The menacing man arrives and sinks his flaming spear into the hearts of Real Madrid. Astonishing from Messi. All the pieces falling into place. Messi, born in the crossfire hurricane, and he is jumping Jack Flash right here.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. New normal, same old football. Paddy Power. Gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
Now more than ever, protecting your family, staff and customers is critical. Introducing Novaris Home and Business Air Disinfection. Made in Ireland, our range of medical grade devices are scientifically proven to kill airborne viruses. Simply plug in and protect 24/7. Novaris. You can't disinfect the air, we can. Order online now at novaris.ie.
This is Air Gigabit Fibre Broadband. A faster, stronger, more reliable connection. Your own line straight to your home. The future at 10 times the speed of life. Get Air Gigabit Fibre Broadband from just $29.99 a month. For more, call 1-800-500-300. Go in store or visit air.ie. Air. Let's make possible. Subject to availability. Pricing refers to Air Gigabit Fibre 150 meg. For full terms and conditions, go to air.ie/gigabit fibre.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Minimal contact in stadiums shouldn't stop the usual suspects from going down. Gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
Okay, welcome back. So we're pretty much done. Really good show tonight, by the way. It's worth downloading Simon Zebo if you didn't catch it. Really good kind of half-hour interview on life, on and off the pitch. Touched on all sorts, really good. Well worth catching up on. We had a Dundalk manager as well, which we'll podcast as part of the football show. And David Meyler, if you're just tuning in and you missed him, was exceptionally good as well. So really good show this evening, all waiting for you on the OTB app, OTB Sports in your app store, or wherever you get your podcasts, and YouTube as well. Tomorrow morning, OTB AM, the lads have Mark O'Shea, they have Damien Delaney, and Johnny Ward will be talking ahead of Dundalk's Europa League playoff game. And then tomorrow night, we're back at 7. John Giles on the way as usual. We'll have John Small, fresh from winning a Dublin Championship, and Brian Kerr as well, with Nathan in the hot seats. That is all on the way tomorrow. Tom Dunn is on the way, and I'll just remind you again of the Carabao Cup results. 4-1 win for Everton against West Ham. It was Dominic Calvert-Lewin with a hat-trick. For Manchester United, 3-0 winners in the end against Brighton. Paul Pogba scored in the 80th minute, Juan Mata as well, and Scott McTominay. And Manchester City, with 2 from Raheem Sterling, were 3-0 winners away to Burnley. So that is us done for this evening. Tom Dunn on the way.